but their families are separate, right? So there's no like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like telling people that though. I'm like, yeah, my step parents are siblings. Everybody goes,
all right. So I told y'all I was gonna have something different. I got a guest on today, and then he's gonna tell you about himself. His name is Jonathan. So Jonathan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, what's up? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. So my name is Jonathan Shane. I'm 27, gonna be 28 this year. I got a little girl. I'm a husband, father, minister, pastor, entrepreneur. Grew up in a very interesting situation. My parents split up when I was about 2 years old. Grew up with step parents, step siblings, and all that jazz. It was quite the journey, and we're still carrying it on today. So that's a quick elevator speech.
Yeah, so I just want to do something different. So from here on out, I'm not going to cover just single dads anymore. What I'm going to do is I want to cover like all dads and like every single dad from different type of genres, whether it's like single dads, co-parent dads, or step dads, just any type of dad in general. So no matter what I'm going to start doing is once a week, I'm going to have some type of dad on here. And we're going to go from there. So Jonathan, I just want to bring him on today, tell his story. We're going to start with this one and we're going to roll with that. And we're just going to keep it going. So Jonathan, we're going to tell his story. I'm going to chime in here and there, but overall, it's just about Jonathan today. All right, so Jonathan, go ahead and tell us your story.
Yeah. So I guess where do you want to start? Like what exactly intrigues you?
I think, what, we were talking the other day. So this is like, y'all don't even know. So we do Bible study together, and we do Bible studies every Tuesday. So we got to talking and stuff about dads and stuff like that. He saw one of my posts. But I think one of the things that made it very intriguing was the fact that when you started talking about like how you had brothers, but they were like step brothers or like no, I think they weren't your real brothers. But you were like they feel like your real brothers because they've been there since you were like 2 years old. And I was like, I don't know about that one. But again, I was like, you know what? Let's just go on ahead and put this story up. Let's listen to it because I want to hear more about it. Yeah. And then I think other people out there, they could probably hear something about it too. And I mean, you never know. People could relate to it. Yeah. So I just feel like I just want to talk about it. We just go from there. We just doing organic today. We just checking it out. This is our first video, and we're just gonna go with it. Yeah, no, I like it. Yeah, so like I said, my parents split up when I was around 2 years old. And my mom, obviously she met somebody super early on, and this story's about to get a little crazy. I'm about to share something I haven't told you yet. Like this. So good, though. Yeah. So my parents split up, right? And my dad met my stepmom, and they got married. And then, you can come on, it's okay. Yes. Okay. And then my stepmom's brother met my mother. Wait, your stepmom? Wait a minute, say that again. My dad met my stepmom, and they got married. And then my stepmom's brother, so not my mom's brother, not my dad's brother, my stepmom, who's not related to me, her brother married my mom. Hi, my name is Chris. I want to thank you for joining the channel and watching this video. So the reason I created this channel is just to help out fathers all around the world. I have 2 boys, and I just really want to inspire people around the world to be best fathers that they can. Some of you out there as men may not know how to be fathers, or maybe you didn't have a father in your life. So this content is geared towards fathers. If you're a woman, you're more than welcome to watch. But I just want to help inspire fathers to be best fathers that they can. Hey, remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share. We got to get this content out. It's all about helping men from all around the world, no matter your race, religion, or background. And that's it. Hey, thanks for watching. Remember, hit the subscribe button and share. Bye. Thanks. Wait, so the brother married the mom? Yeah, so my step parents are siblings. Not my parents, my step parents. Say that, so your step parents are siblings? Yeah. So there's no DNA relation. There's nothing weird going on. It just sounds weird. Yeah, because when you said it, I was like, what? Yeah. Because I've heard different stories where they met somebody and then they fell in love, and then later on come to find out they were like a brother or a sister. No, it's not like that. It's not like that because my biological family isn't related. Like my dad and my mom aren't related at all. But my step parents are siblings. They're related to each other, but their families are separate, right? So there's no like, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. I like telling people that though. I'm like, yeah, my step parents are siblings. Everybody goes, huh? It's like, no. And that's why I wanted to cover different stories, because I feel like other people, they can look at it and be like, well, I'm in this strange situation, and can I relate to this father? Because there's so many different stories and avenues that you can go with these different things. And when you talk about it, it's like, man, I never heard that story before. Yeah. I'm gonna tell somebody about this story. I'm gonna check this story out. And that's the thing I just want to tell people about is like, we're here to help you as fathers, and like we really just want to try to be the best parents that we can, and just help promote different stories to different people and just go from there. Yeah. So no, I think it's an amazing story and stuff like that. And I think that it'll really help people around, just as far as everything, and them being able to relate to it. I'm sure in different aspects of your story people can relate, because I think the thing that really, when you were like, I call my stepdad dad, I get that, but I could kind of relate to the story because my older son is like 9 years old and my younger son is like 2. No, my younger son is 4. And then what happens is that some of the people in like my ex-wife's family is like, yeah, there's family, but then she has somebody else that she's dating and she'll say, hey, this is part of your family. Well, my oldest son is like, no, that's not my family.
Yeah.
But the youngest son, you know, he's 4, so he don't know no better.
Exactly.
So he's just like, okay, mommy, this is what it is. And like, that's just, he just goes with it.
Yeah.
But the way I always tell my son is like, that's not your family. But it's like, you know, you got to do what's best for you. So I really feel like that.
Well, and I think also I think that's what got me to share the information with you, is because I think that from the kid's perspective versus the dad's perspective is very different, right?
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we have a hard time as fathers, and this is in any given situation, we have a hard time looking at life through our kids' shoes, right? It's all about how we see it, and we don't take time to go, well, how's my child perceiving this?
Yeah, right? Really. And that's so when you said it, and then I was like, maybe I could see like my younger son through his eyes or something. So I started thinking about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Let's just go on ahead and shoot this video and just go.
Yeah. So my parents split up, right? And then they married my step parents, and that happened early. I was like 2-3 years old when they all started dating and stuff. And so before I knew it, by the time I was 4, I had already met my stepbrothers, right? And I don't remember this. That's how long I've known them. So like growing up, I understood that they weren't like my dad's kids,
right?
Like I understood that. But I'll explain to you, when you're raised in a house, like, because like when my parents split up, my oldest brother moved in with my dad.
Right.
And I lived with him for a time, and then when I was around 6 years old, I was a menace, bro. ADHD real bad. I was violent at school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a lot, because like my stepmom had 2 other kids, and she was dealing with a lot, right? It's a high pressure situation. You got 4 kids, trying to run the home. I get it. And so I went to live with my mom. And so, you know, obviously at that age, I don't have a lot of memories, right? Because I'm only 6.
Yeah, because you're trying to relate back to it, and like, I don't know if I can remember everything.
Yeah, exactly. So growing up, it was more of I live with my mom. In my head, even though my dad will remind me, he's like, you know, you lived with me for a long time. It's like, right. In my memories, no, I lived most of what I can remember with my mother and my stepdad. My stepdad's always been there. And, you know, and it was really interesting because this is something I learned as I got older, talking to my mom. When she first started dating my stepdad, and then they got married, like, he didn't want me to refer to him as dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you told me the story, you call him dad. I thought maybe that's something y'all agreed on.
No. At first he didn't want it because he understood that's not his role.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Okay, I see.
He understood that,
yeah.
But regardless, as I grew up and we bonded, I mean, that's the man. I was telling you this yesterday. That's the man that I went home to. That's the man that got onto me about my grades. That's the man that punished me when I misbehaved. That's the man that taught me how to fix a car, taught me how to change tires, taught me how to change brakes.
Right.
He taught me all that, right? And it's unfortunate that my biological father didn't get to teach me those things.
And that's what I was wondering. So, like, how was it? Okay, I guess I would say, like, once you got to middle school and high school, did you, what kind of custody did y'all have, or did you spend time with
So every 2 weeks I went to go see my dad. And that had always been like that. But the problem was I had a lot of resentment towards my father growing up.
Okay.
Because stay tuned, because this gets thick. Because remember, perception is reality for kids, right? And so in my perception, my dad cared more for my other siblings than not me, right? And so like I would be at my mom's house and my stepdad would help me with something, or my mom would help me get something, right? I remember one time she fought tooth and nail to get me a pair of Jordans. And she got me some.
Wait, you was wearing Jordans?
On sale J's, dog. Before that it was the Starburst. You know them like old school shoes from all my clothes were warm. Oh yeah, we grew up in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with 12 kids. I grew up with my step. Wow. Yeah. No. I grew up poor, like hamburger helper without the hamburger poor. You know what I'm saying?
Because I was thinking, because I never asked you how you grew up, but that makes sense why you would volunteer to do the Bible study. Because I was thinking maybe you had like a middle class lifestyle. Because my lifestyle was like middle class, but you know, we'll get into that another day.
Yeah. No. It definitely was not. Definitely not. But like, so I have this one memory, and I wrote about this in this book I'm writing. I'm writing this book. I tell this story. that I went to my dad's house for the weekend and I asked him if he could get me a pair of shoes, and he couldn't afford it. And I'm assuming he really couldn't at the time.
Right.
I left and I come back two visits later, so it'd be a month. And my brother had a brand new $100 pair of Nikes on.
Oh,
and so for me, I associated, because he did have a little bit better pay than my mom, and they did live a little bit better. And so there was a level of disassociation of like, he takes care of them better than he takes care of me.
Right, because I think at the time you probably didn't understand the value of money, and you're probably like, hey, I don't really know.
Well, I didn't understand. I didn't live with him.
Yeah.
It was, my mom took on the responsibility to get me what I needed. Yes, but that being said, I do understand that dads have responsibility, but that's a whole nother, again, this is a thick conversation. And that's why I think it's important to have, because it's complicated.
Yeah.
Because yes, he's my dad, and he should, and there are times he has helped me. There are definitely times he's helped me. But like, my perception of where's my dad at? He was there,
right.
But like, he had other kids that didn't have my mom to take care of them, that he needed to take care of. Yeah. 3 other ones, right? So he's pouring money into all these kids.
And you're like, well, what about your own son?
But like, my mom was taking care of me, so like, he didn't need to do the necessities because he already had 3 kids. His my full-blooded brother, and then my 2 half siblings, my brother and my sister. He was taking care of them. Right. Like, he had those mouths to feed. But in my eyes as a kid, I was like, yo, what's up?
Yeah, because I think I can see where you're coming from, because you're looking at the situation like he's giving them these different things, whether it's clothes, money, or different resources and stuff like that. But it's like, what about me? I'm your son too.
Yep, exactly.
And I think it goes back to what you said, perception is reality. So sometimes we can perceive things as one way. And I've had that happen a lot. Mm-hmm. When I was young, I thought one way. And then as I got older, like, I remember telling my mom like many times, because my dad is like dead and gone now, but I told my mom, I was like, man, y'all did an amazing job raising me. Like, when I looked at all the other parents around there, and they're not bad. Sometimes people can only do, and parents can only do the best job that they know how to do. And that's it. That's all they qualify.
That's important.
All. And that's how I look at things. Is like, I don't really knock people. It's like, that might have been all they knew how to do at that time. And that's how I look at it, is like, don't always put somebody down. And like, there's some type of Bible verse that talks about that, where it goes in and starts talking about don't judge people, because you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, only the Lord knows their heart, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting that you brought up that point, that they're doing the best they could do, because I think that's where like the shift for me changed. So prior to that, I really resented my dad, but like, I still had like this, a lot of my problems before I found Jesus stemmed from wanting male affirmation, because I didn't feel like I got it from my dad.
That makes sense.
Like, that was a lot. That's what got me in a lot of trouble growing up.
Yeah, because I think it could be like a biology. I really believe it's a biology thing, because you're just programmed to like, where is my dad? Like, I love my stepdad and stuff like that. I don't know, because I never had a stepdad or a stepmom, but it's like, I know who my parents are. Yeah. And it's like, these are my parents. And I've seen that happen a lot of times when it's like a stepdad or a stepmom. Sometimes they feel bad because the kid is like, the dad could be like straight trash, like garbage. But that kid loves his dad, but then you got the stepdad is doing all this other stuff, and you're like, well, nah, they don't really care about the stepdad.
Yeah, exactly. It could go the other way.
Because that's their daddy. Like, they always, no matter if the dad been locked up, he been in jail, they just gonna really care about the biological father.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But so yeah, like I grew up very, very much like my stepdad was my dad. And I think what's important to note here is that my stepdad never left my mom. They're still together to this day, right? So they've been together for 25 years.
Did your biological dad, he left your mom?
Yeah. So it's not like my mom was hopping men and I was just calling them all daddy, right? Yeah. Like, there was one man that I remember growing up with in her house, and that's Jack, my stepdad. And he's my dad. He's just I have 2 dads, right? But I remember this was a conversation, so I had a lot of resentment, and I learned to let it go. I realized, because my dad's not a Christian. He would say he believes in the good Lord, but
say spiritual.
No. Well, I mean, he is, right? Like, a lot of Christians are like that, right? Like, they're not born again, they're not of the Spirit. They just kind of grew up in church, or they understand the concept, right? And they believe in the idea, but you can just tell the way they live, like, their heart isn't for God. You know, they don't have a renewed heart. And but I knew that, like, I came to this realization when I was older, because I realized I had a lot of resentment, and it was hard. He went through some health issues, and he was trying to reach out and establish a relationship, and I was being very resistant because I didn't like him.
Right.
And because I realized, like, part of my issues, which I'm grateful because they led me to God, were from that relationship. So I didn't want anything to do with that relationship. I wanted to disassociate with it.
Right.
And I was still cordial with him, but I was trying to keep my distance. And I realized that, it's kind of like in Romans 8:20, he says that those that are not born again, right? They're still slaves to sin. They don't know righteousness. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
So I realized, like, he literally, as a lost man, he don't know any better.
Yeah,
he literally doesn't know any better.
Exactly, and that goes back to exactly what I said. It's like you want this person to do all these things. You're like, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And then you're like, that's all they know how to do. Like, don't blame. Just say, you know what? And then you get to the point where it's like, I just love you because I know that's all you know how to do, and now I understand you're not a bad person. It's just like, if that's all you know how to do, all I can do is just love you where you at.
Yeah.
And I've heard somebody say that once. It's like, love the person where you're at. And at first I was like, what? But then as time went on, I was like, oh, because let's say the goalpost is like here, and then this person's here, and then they get there, but it's like you need them to be here, but it's like, I can only love you here because that's where you at. That's all you can do. That's all I can do. So.
No, and it made a huge difference because from that moment forward, like when he did things that I always said, that's my dad, right? Like I would just make that, like I would make that statement with my mom and be like, that's dad, That stuff didn't sting anymore because I stopped placing an expectation for him to do something different.
Right.
I just knew he was going to do what he was going to do. He's going to talk, whatever. But that allowed me to open up a door to actually start having a relationship with him. And I remember he started doing this like family fishing trip with all of us, which was cool. And I remember the second trip we went on, it was like 3 years ago, I want to say. And we went up for the trip, and it was just me and him in my truck for like 7 hours. I'd never been alone with this man for 7 hours.
Wait, so it wasn't like your brothers and sisters?
No, they were in the other car.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
This is...
So we started talking, and I forget what happened, but he said, well, what do you mean by that? And I was like, oh, man. We're going to have this conversation today? I said that out loud. And
he was like, oh, okay.
I was like, we're going to have this conversation today?
Yeah.
And so I just kind of told him, like, how I felt. And I tried to explain it as softly as I could. Like, this was my perception. I understand this.
Yeah.
And I started explaining and stuff. And I was expecting him to get, like, really mad and resentful. And, of course, he at some points, he was kind of like, well, But something I realized, there's 2 things I realized. And it goes back to what you said earlier. One, I realized that he literally did the best he could. Like in that moment, he made the best. Like, okay, and something you have to understand: even if your dad is a crackhead, right?
Yeah.
He is doing the best he possibly can. Even if the best he can do is crappy as hell,
right?
Even if the best he can do is being abusive and putting himself in jail and not showing up, that is the best he can do. And it might be unfortunate in your circumstance, but that is literally the best they can do because that's like the best. If that makes sense, right? Like best in this situation isn't like a positive word all the time. It can be a really negative word because their best sucks. But
and that's how it is. You can only be the best that you could be. Like sometimes I think they want people to be here, and it's like they're never gonna reach there because of their potential. Sometimes potential can be here, it could be up there, but it's like they'll never reach there because they just won't keep trying and growing.
Exactly. But also, what I realized in this conversation, because then he told me about his childhood. And I knew some stories, but he kind of went into deeper. And I realized something.
Oh, kind of give you like a better point of view.
Well, yeah, his child upbringing was way worse than mine. Super abusive stepdad, 2 abusive stepdads, like bullets and fists, like really intense.
Oh, so it was
but
probably
and my dad's never laid his hand on me once, right? So, like, to him, my childhood was way better than his. Even if I didn't like it, it was way better. So, like, it was better. Right. And so, like, he didn't see anything wrong with it because it was better than his. Like, he's like, hell, boy, you should have seen what I went through. Kind of like when kids are whining about going to school and their parents go, man, I used to climb 7 mountains and run through the snow to get to school on time.
Yeah, and sometimes I've heard stories about that. I mean, even my mom, I think it was her dad, and they had to walk to school, and it's like sometimes it's like they had to walk miles just to catch the bus. And then it's like if they didn't have the proper shoes and all that, because I don't know the full story, but I was like, I mean, it's some old school stuff. This is like way before the 50s.
And we're over here whining because like our Game Boy won't turn on.
Yeah, and it's like when we look at a lot of, actually I was thinking about it today too, like driving and stuff. We have so much access to all the different electronics and social media and stuff like that, but we're more disconnected than ever before.
Yep.
And it's crazy.
Yep. In fact, I have a line for that. I think of it. It says, in our pursuit to cheat death, we've lost life.
Yeah. And that's why I think probably when you had that long discussion with your dad, it's like you got to see his point of view and then he got to see yours, and it was like, oh, okay. And sometimes it takes those hard conversations where you might be like, y'all talking, next thing you know, one person starts crying, and then you like give them a hug and stuff like that, because you're like, wow, like I never knew. They just didn't understand. And I've been like that before, where I told somebody something like millions over and over and over, and they still just keep doing the same thing. And then one day they wanted me to be there for them.
Yeah.
And something happened, and I said, I just can't be there for you because I've been trying to tell you stuff for a long time, but it's like you're not getting it. So, you know, basically I was like, you got to find somebody else to be there for you because you're not understanding.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like that. You know, you get tough love, and then finally sometimes they come around, or sometimes they keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you start asking, you're like, wait a minute, is this person mentally something going on? That's what puts you. And then sometimes you're just like, that's just how that person is.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I started to find out is like, people just are the way that they are. And I had a supervisor that told me this a long time ago, and he was like, you know, Chris, don't try to change people. Like, that's who they are. Just accept this person for who they are. And when he told me at the moment, I said, okay. But then as time went on, I said, okay. Like there was this guy, he was like a motivational speaker, and he was talking. He was like, sometimes y'all talking to people and you don't want this person to lie. Of course they're gonna lie. They're a liar. What do you expect? Like that's who they are. Don't expect nothing different. And when he said it, people laughed, but it's true. Like, why are you expecting this person to be something that they're not?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So after that talk, our relationship drastically changed. I remember like after we got to our destination for the family trip, I remember getting out of the car and walking next to him, and I felt different. Like I felt a lot more open to his perspective on things, and it made a huge difference. Mm-hmm. So like I think like if you're a father, like, and you're wondering and you feel like there's tension between you and your kid and resentment, you need to, if I could change anything or hope for anything, I would have hoped that he would have engaged me before I engaged him. Like it took way too long to have that conversation.
Like him, like sit down and talk to you about it.
Yeah, because I think parents are aware, but they're just too busy. So I think it's like if you have intention with your kid, because you know you're separated from their mother or whatever it might be, like take time to sit down without any expectations. Don't take anything personally. Drop your pride as a man and just ask them, how do you feel about us? And like let them vent. And like even if they say something that makes no sense to you, that makes you get really pissed off under your skin, don't show it, eat it, and realize they're just trying to express their perspective. Because if you don't ask them, you're never going to know, and it's just going to build. And if you react in a negative way when you hear it, they're never going to talk to you ever again about it.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and I think that's a male thing. I've heard it before. It's like an ego thing or something like that.
Well, yeah, it like makes you look bad. You don't want to look bad.
Yeah, and I've heard that, because I've heard different women just say it before. It's like a male ego thing. And really, I could kind of relate, because I'm trying to see the best way to say it, because there was a guy that talked about it once, and he was like, you know, if a woman basically puts a man down to a certain extent where she like kills his pride, or somewhere where she just does something to him like that in like an emotional way, that guy will never open up again. And I thought about it. And then I thought about, you know, different relationships I was in and stuff like that. I was like, he's so right, because I remember stuff happened and I was dating, and then it was like this woman did something wrong. I never opened up to that woman ever.
Yeah, but apply that to your parents. Like imagine if your mom did that to you.
Yeah, and that
would hurt way worse, right? And
I can relate to that in a sense, because there was stuff my mom said before, and like it was probably like 6 months or a year, I just kind of acted different. And finally one day I was like, look, I'm tired of you doing like speaking these little comments and saying these little things like here and there, kind of like passive aggressive and stuff like that. You know, sometimes we don't really get in too many arguments and stuff like that, but I had to have, you know, basically what we call a sit down. Like, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I told you need to quit doing this. You know, we arguing all that. I ain't got time for this no more. What you gonna do? Because we here right now. I need you to make some changes, because I'm good where we at.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's like, hey, look, you know, one person might cry and stuff like that, but then you just fix it. You got to keep going, because you got to put your pride aside, and you got to say, hey, look, I love you. You need to make some changes. That's what they got to make some changes, or you need to make some changes in order to mend it. And I think that really goes for anything. Sometimes you got to like, stuff breaks apart, but in order for you to repair, you got to put it back together and build it back together. Yeah. So a lot of times it comes back stronger.
Yeah. Well, and realize too, like, and this is not only speaking to like fathers that like need to work on something with their kid, but maybe you're someone else's kid and you have a kid and you're trying to, like, you're a dad and you're trying to figure out this relationship with your child. Realize that the kind of relationship you have with your father impacts your, like, even if, so like, you know, I think about like my daughter and my dad, right? Like my relationship with my daughter is nothing like the one I have with my dad. Mm-hmm. But me mending and learning from the relationship I have with my father has tremendously helped me have a better relationship with my daughter.
Yeah, I think I can definitely understand where you're coming from, because to me, I had an amazing relationship. At least I feel like it was an amazing relationship with both my parents. My parents were married for like 20 years. Like, that was all the way till my dad died. So I tell people, in my eyes, like, they probably argued maybe a couple of times, but I had a good relationship with both of my parents. So with my kids, like, I have a really, really good relationship. I remember even sometimes my older son, he would say, yeah, Dad, you remember sometimes when we were married to my mom, and then sometimes y'all would argue, and then it was like when you argued though, you were like, hey, don't talk to Ethan like that, because, you know, sometimes she would yell at him. I was like, no, I'll start yelling at my ex-wife. She was like, well, why are you yelling at him?
But that conversation totally changed things, right? Like, me and my dad now, like, it's weird because I still expect him to be the lost soul that he is, right? I don't have any clear expectations of my father, but I appreciate the good things he does now. So I used to have no expectations and not care about the good things he did. But now I not only have no expectations, so when he does something that I expect him to do, it's just like whatever.
Right.
So I don't build any resentment, and I also build favor. I build favor because I appreciate when he does something, right? Like when he reaches out to go on a dinner date, or he tells me he's proud of me. I remember the other day I'm building a supplement company, and he sent me a text and he just goes, "I'm proud of you. This is your destiny." Like that, like cool, okay. Right? Like that stuff. I wish he would have told me. Like he would have told me that like 5 years ago. I'd have been like.
I think I can understand where you're coming from. I think before, maybe when you were younger, your expectations were like here, and then I think over time, when y'all had like a serious sit-down conversation, it was like, look, I'm not saying I have all these high expectations. I just learned that you're human and that you make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think once we get to that point, especially as fathers, as friends, and different things like that, and that's really, honestly, I can kind of relate to that, because there were things that, like, I think. It's like my dad, he went to church, he did so many different good things and stuff like that. But then once he died, I was like, man, my dad was like, he was human. Like, he was human like everybody else. And like, wait, I knew he was human, but it was like, I guess it was like the whole dynamics of how I viewed it was like, wow, I know he was holy, he was doing all this stuff, but he really was just human like everybody else out here. Sometimes when we're little, we see them doing all these great things, and sometimes we don't look at the negative, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We just focus on all the positive things.
So mine was the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. All I focused on was the negative, and I never saw the positive, right? So when I got older, I started to actually appreciate the positive and disregard the negative, because he's human.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it can happen, because I think when we're thinking about because I'm first generation Christian, right? I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I'm first generation.
I said that one, but I guess I didn't really know that, because I think you were talking about maybe you got like a born again Christian when you were like in high school.
Yeah. My friend Jacob Onyechi, good guy. He shared my first Bible with me in the locker room of football, and I found Jesus 2 weeks later. His church. He's Nigerian, and his family he's first generation American. So his parents are immigrants from Nigeria. So their whole church. I was the only white dude in that church, and I went there for like 2 years.
That makes, because I was wondering sometimes, like, because Bible study, it's always like mostly Hispanic than black, and so I was like, hey, if Jonathan want to come in, like, I tell people, hey, look, just come over here. You want to volunteer? Let's just go with it.
Yeah.
But I think. Especially in Houston too, like
pasty white boy.
No, I was like, if you want to volunteer, because I think even when people see this video, they're probably gonna be thinking, well, why is he interviewing like this white guy? But hey, look, man, we're in Houston. I'm gonna tell y'all something. In Houston,
this ain't Utah, dog.
Houston is the most diverse city in the USA. So y'all gonna see a lot of different like nationalities, sizes on these videos. And like that's just how it is, because like I said, it's not a platform like, oh, black father. No, we doing all fathers across all platforms. Like, I mean, it could start with like God the Father, then it's gonna go from there. Any type of father, that's what we're gonna do here.
And I appreciate that, because I think one thing I was thinking about this all week last week. Even let's just take like for just a moment, like take Christianity out of it. Let's just think about like Americans. The media likes to make us think we don't have a lot in common. But like you and me have never, I'm sure there's things we disagree on, but we've never argued about anything ever, right? Like, we agree on a lot. We get along just fine. But like if you spend like 5 minutes on Fox and CNN and you just drown yourself in it, we're supposed to hate each other, dog.
It would have you thinking that, and then it's like,
but you realize
a lot of racism they say. So it's like, okay. I
don't know where you're living, but where I'm living, we tight, but like it's like I think I think I appreciate this because I think that what people will find is while there might be cultural, like obviously like a white family has a different culture than a black family for sure, right? Like especially if they have like their later immigrants and things like that. But like we have so much in common.
I think we do. It's a lot of times because I never really. That's why I said when you first came, I wasn't necessarily looking at race. It was just like volunteers here. That's just what we do. So I always look at it from that aspect. And like in Houston, this is just me personally. I feel like it's hard to be racist, especially in inner city Houston. When you start to get to maybe some of the suburbs, and then you hit like the country and stuff like that, you start to see a little bit of it. But I just know firsthand because I read a lot of different articles where they talk about Houston as the most diverse city. So you see, like, even at Bible study, you'll see different parents, you'll see so many different, like, mixtures and stuff like that.
No, I mean, okay, so this is interesting. So this is going to take an interesting turn. So I grew up in Fort Bend. I was right on the border of Alief. If y'all are from Houston, you know what I'm talking about. Now. Yeah, so I was right on the border of it. So I technically grew up in, like, what we call, like, the rich, poor area. Yeah. So, like, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, but it wasn't Hastings, you know? It was, like, I was, like, a bridge over. Yeah. And I remember, like, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So like my high school was so diverse, like so diverse. Like I mean, like I remember, like, and people were still kind of like, I don't want to use the word segregated, but like people naturally are tribal. So I remember I walk in, there'd be the jocks and the preps, and then all my black friends would be behind the stairs acting a fool. Yeah. I go say what's up to all of them and stuff. And I just remember, like, I don't know, like growing up, like I think about certain words that are more sensitive nowadays. And I wasn't a Christian back then, so like I was more vulgar. But that was like saying "What's up, bro?" Like this is how I talk. Yeah. And I remember, this story doesn't relate to this video much, but I just remember going to college to play football, and I became good friends with someone from a really royal town. And I'm just fresh out of high school. The way I talk to my friends, I go, "What's up?" And I just say it because I don't know. I literally don't know. Like like because like all my friends in school, like
because you said this is in college. You said
so this experience was in college, but,
right?
But
in high school you was thinking because in Houston, that's why I say because I could tell you some stories about people.
It's just
that's all we know. Like it's just diverse,
and no one thinks that like no one thinks like that, like for one skin color to say it. And I get it now, but like when I was younger, like no one, like it was like saying what's up, what's good, like you know. Yeah. But I remember that dude got so mad. He was like, "What the hell you saying?" I was like, I literally didn't understand what I said. I was like, "Wait, what'd I say?" And he goes, "You know what you said?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." I said, "What's up?" He said, "Nah, man." And like he finally said it back at me, and I'm like, "What's wrong with that?" Like I literally over my head. And but that's just like my point of that is like it's such a diverse place, and like I think that part of some of the stuff that people deal with in this country is really dependent on where you live. It's really dependent on where you live.
And that's why I think with this channel and everything, I think it'll help so many different fathers from all different nationalities. And it's not even the crazy thing is it's not just gonna be America. Like YouTube is all around the world. Yeah. So I think once you start to see different like people, like you'll see probably Africans, whites, you'll see Mexicans, you'll see everything on this channel. And that's the thing. I think once they start to see all these different faces, they're like, and I've never seen a channel like that because I've seen some channels where the host would be like a black guy and like all you see is a whole bunch of black guys, but then all of a sudden he'll bring on this Asian lady. I've seen that happen on a channel. And I just was kind of like, because his channel was mostly all black. Yeah. And it's like, it's good because the channel grows and different stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, how many more people could this guy reach if he just brings in a lot of different people from all nationalities? And that's why I say you got to look at your channel and see like where you're trying to go. And that's why for me, I just want to make sure I don't really care what type of father you are. Like, even if this guy, like, I might even bring on somebody that just got off drugs. You know what I'm saying? I might do that. Somebody that's not alcoholic anymore. Because I want everybody to just get this, like, different points of view from all these different fathers. And I think I have that point of view because we're so diverse here as opposed to other people. Because I've seen people like that where they come to work, they're coming from different areas. They're like, whoa. I was like, what? They're like, man, this is diverse. Like, y'all just hang out and talk. Yeah, everybody does it. But they're so shocked because they're in the USA, but they've never been to a city like
in other places, it's like real tense, like socially tense or racially tense or what culturally tense or whatever kind of tense. Yeah, Houston's, I think most people that grow up in Houston, like when it comes to like looking at like cultural pressures, super lucky. super lucky because we grew up in a place where like it doesn't matter, man. It's like, are you trying to pursue your best life? And we're talking about this from a Christian lens. Are you pursuing God righteously, right? Like,
Right.
that just looks different from culture to culture, skin color to skin color, but like it's all the same mission.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why I believe this channel, in my opinion, because I tell people, honestly, really, I first created the channel to help dads in general, and that was the idea.
Yeah.
But what happened is time went on, I was like, I stopped for a while, and then I started recording again. It was like single fathers, then I was like, okay. And I was like, what about the other dads and stuff? Then I was like, no, I think I can reach all the dads. And then it just started expanding and stuff like that. I just asked God to like lead and guide me in the right direction. So I started to notice over time, well, wait a minute, because we definitely have a crisis. There's a crisis, I think it's definitely in America. I think it could be worldwide, like all around the world too, but there's definitely some type of like father crisis. And I believe just a lot of that has to do with like the agenda that the media pushes and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And that's why I believe that this channel can be like an outreach to help other fathers like all around the world.
No, I like that. And I think too, because like I was listening to some TED Talk the other day, and it's a woman talking, right? So she's not like a man being biased, right? She's just spitting facts, and she's like, kids that don't have a dad are statistically as high or to be a criminal or whatever as someone that's an orphan, right? But if they have a dad and they don't have a mom, it goes way down because
I've heard that.
Well, because the mom tends to be more nurturing and the man's more authoritative, so they learn to respect boundaries and law if a father's in the house.
Yeah.
When he's not in the house, they like to push the agenda, they push the envelope. So they start pushing the envelope with their mom. Then when they grow up, they start pushing the envelope with society.
Right.
But they have some male figure in the house going, hey, like, these are the rules. You're going to respect my rules.
Right.
Even if it sounds like whatever, it's like that leads to them at least giving respect to authority outside of their family, right? They start giving respect to their boss, to the federal authority, to the law, right? Because like they understand there's consequences for actions from an authoritative perspective.
Yeah.
And so like I do think there's a crisis. Like dad's not engaging. So I think like biological father's not engaging. I think about stepdads that don't take their job seriously. They don't really think what they bought into.
Right.
And it's like, so that's hard too, because it's like, because I think some biological fathers have a hard time dealing with the idea of a stepfather being involved. But I think they have to realize that if you have kids, like even if you get your kids on the weekends or you get them every other week, like you being single is a lot less detrimental to them than their mom being single. Statistically speaking. So like, although I know you don't want to share, like you don't want your kids thinking they have another dad, them having a male authoritative good figure when you're not around is super important for their upbringing.
Yeah, I definitely think that, because I mean I can't get in too much into my story because I just put it to you like this, because you know I still like pay child support and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're good.
All I can say is like, for me, I'm a single dad, so I do talk to one woman like every day. I talk to her. We'll see how things go. But as far as like my ex-wife, all I can say is, you know, allegedly she just has a non-organic relationship. You know, somebody different type of person inside the house, and it may not necessarily be a male. So sometimes people have these different types of relationships and stuff like that, because I think going back to what you said, sometimes I was like, well, but then if it was a guy inside the house and stuff like that, this guy might be aggressive and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, look, you know, it might be another woman in the house and stuff like that, but hey, she ain't hitting them and doing all no crazy stuff. She paying bills. They got a place to stay. I'm good. Because when they see me, it's just me and like, man, my kid, we have an amazing relationship.
Yeah. But so I think, I think that's a great point. And I think this is good for anybody, because I know this interview is going to come out and there's going to be a lot more, hundreds of them. Mm-hmm. It's important to understand that, like, when you're listening, don't think, like, you can't think, man, my circumstance is nothing like that. I'm not listening to anything you say. It needs to be, okay, I hear what you're saying. My circumstance is different. How can I take what you just said and apply the truths I can use to my situation? Right? Because I can tell you everything I just said about statistics and data and all that, but obviously your situation is different. So you have to take what you can and go, all right, I obviously, like, okay, so John said dad here, stepdad here. Obviously half this equation ain't in the cards right now. So all I can do is be the best dad here. How can I do that with what I've been talking about?
Right, yeah.
And then just go from there. Yeah. And if that's all you can do, like, that's good enough. Like, I was thinking about this conversation yesterday night on my way home, and a line came to my head, and it was, and this is, if you can grasp this, it's going to go a long way. Do your very best and always realize it's never going to be enough. Right? So like, do your best as you can. Be the best you can, but always realize it could be better, but don't let that stop you from doing your best. Right? Because we're imperfect. So like, if you live on the idea that you keep messing up and that you're not doing enough, you're going to constantly destroy yourself. But if you can just go, okay, it's never going to be picture perfect, but I'm going to put my all into this. I'm going to invest in my kids. I'm going to be the best dad I possibly can be.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? Like, but also have the expectation it won't be the best. It won't be perfect.
Right.
Because that way you're not let down by your own mishaps.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the way that, because for me, it's like, my kids are just happy. Because I tell people, I'm like, look, you know, I'm going to get a 2-bedroom. I'm in the process of doing that. But right now, I just got like a 2-bedroom. So I got my room. Then it's like, hey, look, y'all got this pull-out bed in the living room. Y'all good? They like, yeah, Dad, we just happy. You know, we just happy we here and everything. And they cool with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, you know, hey, I wish I had another room. But I tell them, man, we only got like 6 more months, something like that. We good.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite memories with my dad was he got in a situation and he didn't have like a job. He lost his job. I think he quit, something like that. Anyways, it wasn't good. And he was selling fireworks to try and pay the bills, right?
That's crazy. But
That's
yeah,
rough,
keep
dog.
going.
So we were in A-Leaf selling fireworks, and I remember the fireworks stand across the street with some Crips, right? And one of them's name was Julio. He was dope. And I remember they'd go out around midnight and they'd shoot their guns in the air. Pop, 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 right? So I remember one night vividly, I remember we couldn't go home because we had to open the thing the next day. There wasn't a lot of gas in the tank. I didn't know that at the time. My dad just said we're gonna sleep at the box, but he didn't have enough gas to get home. So we slept inside the fireworks stand.
So where was he living then?
He was living in his house, but the house was like 45-minute drive, and he didn't have a lot of gas.
There wasn't no gas. Okay,
no
I see
money,
what you're saying.
you know?
Yeah, he ain't got no money.
And I've been there, dog.
Yeah.
And but I remember sleeping in there on the floor inside the fireworks stand, and I remember being next to my dad, and I thought it was the coolest day of my entire life.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so dope. Like realize like you don't have to give your kids the perfect life. You just need to be there for them.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, and yeah, okay, you're gonna get some snobby comments. Sometimes they're gonna come in because their friends have J's or whatever, like the new Converse or whatever they're mad about. And yeah, they're gonna be ungrateful. That's gonna happen. But like, again, be okay with never being perfect and not being enough, but give your best effort and like be there. Because like I'll tell you, like I remember that night, my dad had a Magnum. He was sleeping with a Magnum up against his chest. And they out there pop, 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 and I'm laying there and I'm like, man, this is freaking cool, dude. Like
Yeah.
I thought I was the dopest little kid. I went and told my friends, like, yeah, man, I slept in this fireworks stand, these Crips outside popping. My dad had a gun. I thought I was the coolest kid ever. And like that was a really dangerous and bad situation. It was unfortunate.
Yeah, because you look back at the situation and then you're looking at it and you're like, man, that wasn't that good situation.
It wasn't, but I didn't care. I cared that I had a cool story with my dad, right? Because like I was with my dad, and my dad was willing to invite me in on his experiences, and that meant more to me. Like because there are times when my dad's done really good in life. I remember he was doing really good, and he had these really nice Chargers. Like when the Charger first came back, like the Dodge Charger, he had like the SR8 when it first came out. It was like a $60,000 car.
Yeah.
And he pulls up to my mom's house because he likes to brag, you know.
Flex. Yeah.
So like he called my mom, his ex-wife, and he's like, hey, I got a new car. I'm gonna drive it by my wife. So he pulls up, vroom, vroom, you know, neon underglow. It was dope. It was a sick car. And he takes us for a ride and stuff, and I just remember, like, it was a cool memory, but it was like, I remember thinking, like, all right, so, like, you don't even live with me. Like, okay, you have a nice car, like, all the way in you know, whatever. But, like, I would choose even now, to this day, I would choose sleeping in that fireworks stand over driving in that car when he first got it.
And
Any day.
I think you're definitely right about that, because I remember one time, and I don't even remember specifically what it was, but like I was sitting, so I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and then my younger son is in the back seat, and then my older son is sitting in the front seat up here. And we're driving, and then my son is like, man, Dad, I'm just so happy. And he just starts smiling and stuff. And I don't even remember where we were or something like that. And I think we were coming from like a community center. Community center is free. You just play outside, do all this kind of stuff. But he was just happy, and I'm like, boy, I got a 1-bedroom apartment. I got
Because they don't care about none of that, dog. They don't care about any of that.
And when I seen it, it was like, I could see how happy he was. And I remember there were times where, like, I didn't know my parents couldn't afford certain things till later on. But I remember just being happy. I didn't know that they didn't have money for this, that, the other. Till later on, I was like, dang. Now I see, I get it.
Yeah.
But my oldest son was just so happy. And I was just like, wow, like I'm doing good. Cause I just try to be the best father I can.
That's
and
awesome.
My kids are always happy. They never like, man, my dad never picks me up. And no, they
Yeah.
never say that. They like, we're going to the community center. And I tell them all the time, man, this is just a place to play. But that's what they want to do.
Because they're playing with their dad. And, you know, it's really taught me a lot. Like, I know we can get this another time, but like with my daughter, yeah, it's 7:34. But like with my daughter, because of the way that I remember those experiences, like I don't try to be flashy with her. I just try to enjoy the moment, right? Like when she hugs me, when I open the door and she goes, "Dad, Dad," and she runs and jumps on me, like that. I try to cherish that moment. Like I don't like when she's engaging me and I engage her. I try to act like nothing else exists because I know she is gonna remember that more than anything I buy her. How flashy her daddy is. I'm trying to grow successful. I could be a millionaire, and she's gonna remember whether I hugged her or not, whether I prayed with her or not, whether I told her about Jesus and how much God cares for her and cherishes her, whether or not I watch TV with her. I watch Frozen with her almost every day, and I sing the songs, we dance.
Yeah.
And is it annoying? It's not annoying, but like I don't know. I don't always enjoy the songs, but like I cherish that moment with her because I know that she's going to appreciate that like more than like the kind of house I have her living in.
Yeah, because I think it's just a matter of just spending time with the parents, and that's something I really realized. Like after my dad had died, it was like, man, like I really spent some good time with my dad. I didn't really think about the negative. I just thought about how he was always there because my dad was adopted, but he was adopted back into his own family, so he never met his dad or anything like that. And the crazy thing was, he said he was just happy because his uncle had raised him. And I was just like, man, I was just happy my dad was there. And at the end, I could just think about a lot of different things. Like, it didn't care about the job he had or anything like that. And then I start to realize, man, we can't take nothing with us when we die. Only thing we're going to remember is the time that you spend with that person. That's it. You're not going to think about no money, cars. All you're going to say is this person was either A, they were there for me, or they weren't. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, check us out next time. We might make a redo of this video. I have to see. Not a redo, but you know what I'm saying. Like, we might make a part 2. We're going to see. We're going to see how this goes. Yeah. So, thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Nah,
and a pleasure. We're going to keep having more people on.